I'm Steve Franklin. I'm the Global Director of Marketing for the telecommunications industry here at Microsoft. And the focus of our forum today is on harnessing the power of analytics, artificial intelligence, and automation to accelerate telco transformation. And we sometimes refer to those three topics of analytics, of AI, and of automation as E3, as a group as E3. And over the course of the forum, you're going to learn more about things like the current state of E3 in telco organizations, how the combination of AI, analytics, and automation deliver incremental value to telcos across a number of use cases that we'll highlight, and also the potential financial value of adding A3 into a telco's core network operations, customer care channels, sales, and marketing. So really a great session. We're really excited to have you with us. With me also is Onur Özdemir, who's one of Microsoft's lead technical strategists for the telecommunications industry. Onur is going to kick things off with an overview of A3, and then he'll introduce our special guests from STL Partners and from Nokia. So with that, I will hand it off to Onur.
Thanks, Steve. My name is Onur Özdemir. I'm the industry technology strategist for media and telecoms. As you might already know, Microsoft and STL Research has come together for a two-part series for A3 in the application of analytics, automation, and AI. Those three A's are this A3, analytics, automation, and AI in telecoms industry. These two parts of research were organized in a way where part one of the report looks at how telcos can create high-level mapping of its major functions and processes to create a unique point of view to identify the type of A3 technologies, and then which could then be deployed in each area of their businesses. And then in the second part, afterwards of the report, we estimate the potential financial value for each of these A3 application areas for telecom operators that we have detailed in the first report, right? If you have not already done so, I strongly encourage you to download, read, and apply the findings in these two-part reports. And you can do so by just using the links on the right of the slide or in the resources section of this webinar too, right? And in today's call, we will first get to have a quick summary of what A3 is and what it provides to telecom operators. And then we will have a fireside chat with my guests on their findings and feedback from the industry. With that, let me dive into the research we did, the outline, the findings, which will create a baseline to our conversation today. First, what do we actually mean? By A3, the automation, AI, and analytics, remember? And why is it important for telecom operators to talk about the three of them together, right? Not one by one, but three of them together. Mainly because when we talk and implement them separate, it creates silos, and in a way, it does the job half. It creates inefficiencies. When we say automation, for example, we talk about the rules and script-based automation, not that intelligent one, more the scripted, prescribed one, and more in a way like if X, then Y, and you're trying to close the loop, so to replace manual human intervention, right? That's, in our view, the automation here, siloed. Then the analytics on the right side, in summary, is about looking and processing the big data sets with the analytics and data processing tools we currently have, right? And finally, probably most importantly, the artificial intelligence, which consists of the machine learning algorithms that telecom operators design with their big data sets they have, and then leveraging those, create that infinite feedback loop, and then continues to learn and use those artificial intelligence. And sometimes also not only they create their artificial intelligence algorithms, but they rely on third-party companies already existing cognitive services such as Microsoft's, and those could be the natural language processing algorithms or things like optical character recognition algorithms and the likes. And these are packaged algorithms that would be needed a part of automation, but that telecom operators does not need to reinvent the wheel, right? They are already well-trained algorithms in there. So the idea is, by combining these two, we are adding intelligence to the automation. And that intelligence is gained by creating the machine learning algorithms that are creating, processing that big data sets on the right side, and the operators, today's operators have. So an approach and strategy combining these three provides the highest impact, and this is what we have been documenting in the framework we propose as part of these reports I talked about. Operators have been leveraging these technologies for a while, but when we look at the current state of adoption of A3, that's not exactly what we are suggesting in the findings and in the report. Like the A3 adoptions, or the analytics, artificial intelligence, and automation adoptions of operators usually frequently is a lack of captured customer data, which hampers the understanding of customer behavior and opportunity. And even if we have it, the data is often siloed, which creates governance inconsistencies and leaves value gaps due to the lack of end-to-end visibility. And there are rising storage costs from out-of-date technology at some times, which means keeping up with the data growth and maintaining competitiveness becomes difficult, which adds to this challenge. And today, with my guests as well, we will be getting to the bottom of this. We will try to see and agree on what the current status and what would be the next steps to overcome those and adapt the modern A3 means, right? So, like I said, there are two parts of the work with it, right? And this first part of the A3 application map is on your screen. Right? In the report, we look into the telecom operators' operations. So if you look at the top of this chart that you're seeing in front of you, we look into the network operations, customer channels, marketing and sales, and other functions such as IT, HR, finance, and the likes. So while doing this study, we looked across those four areas, tried to map all these use cases that we come across based on our work with telecoms operators, and somewhat based on the intelligence ourselves and STL research have been gaining through the real-life examples and engagements. So that, in a way, we could come up with hundreds of use cases that we've seen with A3 applying to all those four vertical areas in line with telecom operations, modern telecom operations today. And then the research states that whilst applying those specific use cases to telecom operators' operations, there is a need to use 6 different kind of technology processes to map them correctly to different parts of the organizations, right? And those are the ones, those horizontal are the ones that you see on the left-hand side of the chart, right? Those 6 technology blocks are making sense of complex data, which is using machine learning to make a sense of the data, and for cases around network and revenue management, anomaly detection, and with rule-based analytics for fraud detection, to say some of the examples that are also depicted a part of the use cases here in this map. The second one is personalized customer interactions. This is about using machine learning for pattern detection to facilitate highly tailored services, increasing the efficacy of targeted messages and offers to the customers, right? Third one, augmenting human capabilities, mimicking them, is about using AI in virtual sales and customer care, guided selling, next best action are some examples. The last 3 are automating processes. I think this is self-explanatory. This is more about RPA, robotic process automation. Supporting business processes. This will be around optimizing inventory management using algorithmic automation, forecasting outcomes of corporate strategy by having simulations and scenarios, right? And last but not the least, probably the most colorful one, this is about frontier AI solutions. Like, this is more about the use of AR, VR, drones, and artificial intelligence to optimize operations, such as real-time simulations using augmented reality for employee onboarding and training, such as remote assistance with AI VR, such as AI-powered drones flying through the towers of cell towers to find issues for routine maintenance and emergency repair are just coming up my mind the first for that layer, right? So why is this map helpful? And what benefits it brings to the operators to adapt, right? I think the reason this map is useful is to identify the point solutions and use cases that are going to be important for telecom operators to identify the fundamental areas they have to work and create a specific roadmap to leverage A3 to transform their own operations. So we're talking about taking this map, taking the foundations and creating a unique, specialized roadmap for specific subject telcos for own operations, because every telco environment is unique on its own, right? And finally, on the second part of our report, we provide examples and data on the financial impact that operators could make by adapting those use cases into their operations. Data such like how much of cost savings they can expect or the top line growth they should be seeing. So this is to help our beloved telecom operators, our partners, to prioritize and quantify those areas while they are creating their transformation roadmap, right? And with that, I think this is a great bridge to our conversations. With that, I'd like to invite our panelists up to our fireside chat today to share their experiences with us in terms of the use of AI, automation, and analytics in telecoms industry, right? First, Sanjeev Singh from Nokia, our colleague who is the head of digital strategy, is joining me today. And Miran Gilmore, a consultant and analyst from STL Partners, who have been working with us for the A3 Foundation and the findings that I have been discussing so far. Sanjeev, Miran, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay, it's a sound check as well at the same time. So with that, I have been discussing about A3, why we do it, what is A3, and given a bit of a hint about the current state of the A3 adoption in telcos, because we are no way bringing automation or analytics or AI to the telecoms the first time, right? What we do is something different. We're just packaging them to make sure it adapts and creates a roadmap for them, giving efficiencies in their operations. In that sense, Miran, would you join me? Would you help me to describe the current state of data and AI and automation in the telco organizations? What you have been seeing in your consultancy engagements in the market, what you have been hearing from the customers, partners, and from the industry bodies on this front?
Yeah, so we actually conducted a research program recently back in February where we did a survey of 100 individuals from leading operators to try and understand more about their automation journeys and try and capture where they're at the moment. And I think broadly what we found is that they have made a lot of progress over the past few years in adopting automation within their organizations, but they do still have a fair ways to go in terms of achieving full automation. So we found that 10% of the people that we surveyed said that they did report being fully automated, or only 10% found that they were fully automated in any single network or service domain. And most operators said that they're still in the middle stages of automation with a bit of a mixture of automated and manual processes. And we did also find that on average, operators have automated about 40% of their processes within these single domain use cases. And very few have taken that step beyond that to move into automating use cases that span across multiple domains. And in terms of the use cases or the areas where they do tend to be a bit more mature with their adoption of automation, we found that it's those operational areas where operators are able to leverage mature and pre-existing vendor solutions that tend to be the most highly automated. So for example, operators reported greater degrees of automation for network fault detection and root cause analysis, because this is an area where there are a lot of pre-trained models from vendors that are widely available. Whereas for example, network function lifecycle management, vendor solutions are still quite nascent, and so operators hadn't made as much progress there with adopting. So I think on the whole, the industry does still have a way to go to achieving full automation that spans across multiple domains instead of just sitting within a single domain. And all operators are automating at different speeds, really, depending on their geography and their focus and the maturity. And on the whole, I would say for most operators, the network and service domains are the ones that are lagging behind, whereas they do generally have higher levels of automation within domains like HR and sales and marketing. So they've made some good progress in those areas, and still a lot of work to be done, particularly within the networking space, I'd say.
Thanks, Miran. Great insights. Sanjeev, you have heard Miran. Miran and her team have been working closely with telecom industry for long, and have been hearing all these insights during their course of research and interviews. But you have a different role in the industry, right? You're a partner, you're a network equipment provider, you're a vendor to the telecoms organizations. So I'm sure you have a great way of collecting the feedback and leverage during your business as usual. So what is the state of the industry in terms of the adoption of AI, automation, and analytics in your point of view?
Thank you, Onur, and Miran, great job in slicing by percentages and the maturities of various telecom communication companies. In my role in Nokia, covering digital strategy, I get to sort of peer into each area of the world: APJ, Asia Pacific, Japan, India, Middle East, Europe, and the Americas. So what is coming back to us is remarkably consistent. The same story is heard, the same level of maturity is heard by the same size of companies. For example, tier 1 telecommunications, whether they are in Japan, Australia, India, Middle East, in fact, Etisalat to STC in Europe, Vodafone Europe, or in Americas, they are more or less in the same band. And where are they? So that's one thing that I want to establish up front, is that around the world, we are seeing a very high degree of commonalities. What are the commonalities? So as you pointed out, Onur and Miran, that automation, analytics, AI, and data. So everybody understands data, and data is the common base. But you got to look back how the organizations are structured. So if you're a VP of network, if you're a vice president of customer care, or fleet management, or capacity build-out, typically you would have had your own set of systems and your own IT funding budget that was funding your processes and tools and reporting systems. Now, with that automation cutting across horizontally, the concept of a service chain has come into view. And one of the best examples of a service chain is Uber. When you take an Uber, they mix together so many different functionalities that they obtain from different internally and externally. So what that means is telcos have to bring together all data into one place, or at least acquire data. So they have done a good job of that in constructing data lakes. They have done a good job in creating the stack of tools, and they have done a good job of identifying the use cases, like Miran pointed out, operational use cases. Where they are challenged is how to inject the AI and automation to the common users within the care companies and outside to consumers. So that's where the challenges exist. So if I were to prioritize, get your data correct, build automation, then go to AI. Those are the 1, 2, 3 steps. Does that make sense, Miran and Onur?
Well, on the dot, Sanjeev. Yeah, I agree. Great remarks. And maybe Miran, those were great examples Sanjeev was giving us. Can you also, from your angle, maybe extend the list of examples of how these three technologies, the A3, come together for telco companies that you see in your engagements?
Yeah, so I think, like he said, it's true that data really is a critical part of the puzzle that really underpins the other technologies. And without data, you can't successfully achieve automation and AI. I think an example of a use case in which all three of data, AI, and automation come together would be next best action within the contact center environment. So this is essentially where you're considering the different actions that can be taken for a specific customer and deciding on which one is the best one that will be the most appropriate to solve their problem. This is a good use case that there's a lot of hype around because it offers a lot of opportunities for telcos in terms of creating greater efficiencies and improving the customer experience. And we do believe it offers a lot of value for the future of telcos. And so at a very basic level within this use case, you might typically have it without any automation and AI. You just have a human looking up what the advice is for the customer in a handbook and having to do this manually. Then when you're introducing that level of automation, then suddenly you can be potentially inputting your problem into a program and it's going to automatically output what the best course of action is based off a set of rules. Like you said, if X happens, then do Y. It's fairly basic rules-based automation. And then when AI can come in and can be really valuable and augment this process, is that instead of having to define a specific set of rules, you can actually define an outcome. So the AI is going to figure out how to achieve that outcome in the best way without a predefined set of rules. And it's going to be able to change this and optimize this as the new data is being fed in. So your next best action algorithm can constantly update depending on the new data that's being inputted, whether it's information on what location your customer's in or how much data they've used, or information on issues that other customers are having at the same time and how those have been successfully actioned and treated, then your algorithm can keep optimizing. And so that is a great example of when AI can really add value to a more basic automation use case. And I think it's a good one because it's not a mission critical use case. So for operators who are looking to start introducing AI into their processes, there aren't super high stakes. And if the suggestion for the customer isn't the absolute optimal one, it's not going to be a huge problem within the networks. It's a small issue that is okay to test and learn with. And ultimately, yeah, it's better to do these types of AI introductions within these commercial environments, and can be really valuable for operators. And I think this is where they're moving towards. They might be at the moment more at that rules-based automation stage, but machine learning and AI is what's on the horizon for them and what's a bit further out on the roadmap that they're working towards.
Great examples. Thank you, Miran. Sanjeev, to take those examples and to gauge the impact, at least the ones that we are seeing so far, right? I'm sure you and your team, and I know, not only sure, that you're talking to telco industry leaders of all tiers of telecoms customers and all across the globe, right? Whether in the APAC, in the Americas, or in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. What is the impact you observe those operators are seeing as they adapt these technologies?
So from an impact point of view, thank you. And again, very good summarization, Miran, and I'll build on what she said. From an impact point of view, the first impact has been very healthy and positive. I have access to data, and the data is not locked up in vertical silos by organization or system or tools. So having data in the data lake gives you access. Of course, there are some challenges in organizing the data, naming the data, having genealogy appropriate to the data, and data protection and security on all of that. Those are what I call non-functional requirements, very critical, but nevertheless non-functional. What it has allowed them to do is build automation, as she pointed out, Miran pointed out. So our message to our customers is very simple. If you want the highest impact in the shortest period of time, be opportunistic. Identify a use case that has value, that you can assess the value. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Saving time of a technical truck roll that you do, or saving time of your customers when they come online portal to choose a service plan and a phone model, and things of that nature. So impact can be measured in saving of time or lesser cost of transaction. Boil it down to some simple business metrics, then drive the automation back into your data lakes and obtain the right data. AI comes where you want to personalize the experience. So AI is, like Miran pointed out, a second order impact. The first impact should be to go from manual or semi-manual to as much automation as it makes sense, using the data you have collected in your data lake. So let's solve that problem. Once we have solved that problem or nearly addressed it in a scalable manner, let's focus on AI/machine learning so I can serve an audience of one. So I find that, as it's a borrowed phrase, someone else I heard in Silicon Valley seminar, it's a custom personalization to one. When you order Uber, you're concerned about your experience. When you order online from Amazon, you're concerned about your experience. Similarly, telcos have to reach out to their business customers and individual customers with a personalization envelope, and that is where ML and AI come into play. So I just wanted to sort of support it like that. And if you go through those 3 steps in that sequence, you achieve the highest impact in the shortest possible time and best return on your investments.
Can't agree more. I love it, Sanjeev. Let's double click the impact further, right?
Mm-hmm.
Miran, the financial impact, can you take where Sanjeev left and try to help us quantify the financial value and the impact that it generates for telco organizations today as we know it, and especially for the telco core network operations or the customer care channels and sales and marketing? Can you share a few words about it?
Yeah, so as you said earlier, we did conduct this exercise of financial modeling to try and quantify specifically what we see as being the potential financial value of adding A3 into telcos operations. And what we found is that for the average telco, we estimated that across those areas of core network, customer care and sales and marketing, A3 could deliver over $1 billion in value per year. And that's equivalent to about 7.7% of total annual revenues. And that's through a combination of revenue uplift, but also OPEX and CAPEX savings. And so of this overall potential value that we found, it was the network operations that accounts for by far the greatest proportion of the value. And it's about 3/4 of that value comes from the network operations, which isn't a huge surprise, really, given that managing the physical network infrastructure and increasingly also the virtualized infrastructure is what accounts for the bulk of operators' CAPEX and OPEX costs. And if you dive a bit deeper into that networks bucket, because it is such a big one, we further segmented it and found that it's the resource management, which is the network planning, the deployment and maintenance, and the management of network capacity and resources, where again a huge bulk of that value comes from. And the reason that network planning and resource orchestration offers such a big opportunity for cost efficiencies using A3 is because it enables operators to target new network investments much more wisely than they were able to do so before, and also to be able to manage their rapidly growing network of virtual network functions and cloud native network functions. And if you look beyond the networking bucket and look over at customer care, so here we estimated that A3 could deliver the equivalent of about 1% of total annual revenues, which is about $170 million. So a lot of this comes within contact centers from next best action, which is the use case I talked through, within digital channels. Customer facing chatbots are what represents the majority of the financial uplift. So the cost savings can range from about $5 million for a smaller telco to up to $25 million for larger telcos in developing markets. And within sales and marketing, one of the main uses of analytics and machine learning is to improve the personalization of telco campaigns. And so again, that can provide huge value for telcos, and we estimated that to be about 0.76% of annual revenue, so equivalent to about $114. And if you're interested in understanding more about specifically where the value comes from and which use cases can be of potential value, I definitely recommend checking out the report and seeing our analysis in a bit more detail.
Hey, Oner, can I build on one of the examples that Miran pointed out? Do you have a quick few seconds?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So you pointed out 3/4 of the value comes from the physical maintenance and resources of the network itself. That's absolutely true. And here's a practical example. The 5G network requires a latency of sub 10 milliseconds. Currently, the 4G network works around 30 to 40 to 50 milliseconds. So think about that. There's a 500% reduction or improvement in the latencies that the telcos have to deliver on the 5G network. So what's the example here? So they have transport networks based on SONET and SDH and ATM and E1. All of that has to transition to optical mesh, both in the core and the distribution and on the radio as well. So just managing the transition of that through automation is one of the most lucrative and important areas for automation and data to focus on. Once we have accomplished that, then only we will be able to do AI personalized to your network slice and give you a superior experience on a case-by-case, transaction-by-transaction basis, whether you're running a video call or a webinar or any kind of marketing event from a consumer point of view. So I just wanted to illustrate what she said about the 3/4 of the savings or financial benefit or impact coming from the network itself. So we at Nokia are extremely excited about helping our customers transition from transport, core functions, to virtualized function, both on the radio side and on the transport side.
Great. So final remarks, Sanjeev. Great feedback. Thank you. In terms of next steps, yeah, we have been giving some messages between lines, but this is a transformation at the heart. For the coming 12 to 18 months, Miran, 15 seconds, what guidance you will give to the telco leaders of today to embrace these A3?
I think if I was giving very high-level recommendations, I'd say that it's really important, rather than embarking on a really lengthy, all-encompassing digital transformation program, to identify your key strategic focus areas and define those and break them down into manageable blocks. So take a use case focused approach instead of trying to aim for too much. And identify the use cases in those domains that are going to align most with your strategic goals. And I would say also, don't forget about people. Upskilling and training people and culture is going to be a huge part of it, and it's one of the main challenges that we've seen telcos face. And so remember to engage in that and invest in that, and don't forget about the people and the culture.
Lovely. I can't agree more. Sanjeev, any final remarks in a sentence?
Yes, I'll build on what she said. Basically, I will say in the next 12 to 18 months, focus on building the right team, which will find the right use cases and drive the whole project through financial and organizational metrics, adoption and savings, and get the right team in place. Once you have the right team in place, things will happen. Most of the project failures occur because the right team is not in place. It's not because the use cases that were selected was not right. They couldn't execute. So it goes back to what Miran said about skills, competencies, and the right team and the guidance.
Which is at the core of any industry, is digital transformation, I can say.
Yes, right.
And that was a great conversation. I really enjoyed. Thanks for joining me today, Sanjeev, Miran, and Steve, back to you.
Oner, thank you so much. And yes, Sanjeev, Miran, thank you as well. That was fantastic perspective. Really appreciate the time. And thanks also to everyone for attending. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation. And also, for more on how Microsoft and our partners empower telecommunications organizations to do more, to achieve more, please visit aka.ms/Microsoft Telecommunication.